How I Met Your Mother. This is one of my favorite shows I've ever watched, and I'd say my top one comfort show. It may not be my number one show of all time, but it still is my definitive comfort show. The series ran for around 9 seasons throughout the 9 years it aired, and the reviews overall have been positive except for the first and final seasons. And after the show reached its end, the producers of the show, Craig Thomas and Carter Bays, created a spin-off show that was aspiring to live up to the quality of its predecessor, How I Met Your Dad. After getting shelved immediately after its pilot episode due to the terrible quality in comedy and its story, the show has been rewritten a couple of times to reach its final product that became How I Met Your Father. How I Met Your Father, created 8 years after its first attempt as How I Met Your Dad, follows Sophie and her friends throughout New York trying to find love and learn to become better people overall. Some elements of the series, such as the main character getting dumped in the very first episode, are the ones that survived the original draft of the show back in 2014 in How I Met Your Dad, and other elements such as the laughing track and the time skipping are taken directly from the predecessor.
This one starts with a Tinder date.
Excuse me.
Actually, it starts with me being late to a Tinder date.
Don't hit me, don't hit me!
The reviews so far have been mixed, to say the least. The majority of the people see this as another recycle of a peacefully dead series, although the show did not really die peacefully due to its controversial ending, and notice that the jokes are not that great, and I have to agree on that. The story for the pilot episode, at least, is also very lackluster, and you feel devoid of the friendship connection that gets naturally built up within the characters as it is trying to present it as. But why am I so hopeful about this? Why am I still rooting for the show to succeed despite its clear errors in the most crucial parts of what made How I Met Your Mother so special? First, let's just start with what made How I Met Your Mother so special. First, let's start with what saved How I Met Your Mother. The show definitely had its rough first season, and we can all agree on that. I remember watching the show with my aunt and her saying, "The cast just isn't that funny." However, as the show went on, it became funnier, sweeter, and even sadder at times.
Come here, my little blue-eyed baby.
So many character deaths built upon layers that soon, my aunt and my mom both agreed that they don't want this cast to change in How I Met Your Father. But in my eyes, what saved How I Met Your Mother was not just its characters, although credits where it's due, it is partly the characters. It was the well-thought-through story. The advantage of having a roadmap for the characters and the story overall, and knowing what processes the characters have to go through, is actually what a lot of storytellers nowadays are missing, the biggest example being the new Star Wars trilogy. Thomas Craig and Carter Bays took their experience as bachelors in New York while in their 20s and created a roadmap for the story of how it should start, how the characters will intertwine with each other, and lastly, how it should end. How it should end. No matter how you judge the finale of How I Met Your Mother, it is still astonishing how the writers managed to keep a story consistently well thought out and, honestly, most of the time, brilliant. Years before the first episode even aired, they had planned how the series should end and they stuck with it. This gave them the advantage of having the older protagonists keep on teasing the future, which is ironically the past, and not only keep the audiences engaged, but it also gives the series a sense of nostalgia that the protagonist is going through.
Every 5 a.m. Christmas morning, every sleepy Sunday afternoon, through every speed bump, every pang of jealousy or boredom or uncertainty that came our way, I carried that lesson with me.
This is one of the biggest strong suits that How I Met Your Father actually has up its sleeve. What How I Met Your Mother did with its story was that from the very beginning, it subverted our expectations by teasing Robin Scherbatsky as the main love interest, and then just dropping the bomb that she isn't the mother.
I mean, I never thought I'd see that girl again, but it turns out I was just too close to the puzzle to see the picture that was forming. Because that, kids, is the true story of how I met your Aunt Robin.
Aunt Robin? I thought this was how you met Mom.
This I'd say is genius. Not only does it tell that things won't go well with Robin, despite the entire plot making the audience wanting them to get together, thus making the future episodes where Robin and Ted get together make the audience both happy and uneasy for what it's hiding. It also keeps the audience hooked for the rest of the ride. It's a sense of mystery because it indirectly tells the audience that not only do they have the entire story planned out, but also that there's much more to the story after Robin. The thing is, How I Met Your Father did a similar thing in its pilot episode while putting its own twist to it.
That's it. That's the night I met your father.
But you guys didn't even get together.
Get together? Oh, that's a much longer story. Now, where was I? Where'd I put that bottle of laundry?
From an episode that seemed extremely bland compared to his predecessor and seemed like a college skit assignment, it ends with a twist. Two twists actually, but we'll get to the other one later. But this one being that one of these men that Sophie has met on the day is actually the father. First of all, this will completely calm down some of the haters of the original show's ending of how the mother died all of a sudden, not even after she got fully built up. But also, this is how I Met Your Father might make their characters interesting. The audience will keep on wondering whether the father will end up being Ian, Jesse, Sid, or even Charlie. Half the fun of How I Met Your Mother, of course, was trying to find who the mother is. We keep on meeting these new people that most of the time get so well fleshed out, and other times pretty lackluster. However, this time we are shrunken down to a few people. Does this take away the fun from the original show? Maybe, but does it still exist as a monumental motivation to keep watching this show? Yes, and here's why. As much as developing so many characters as well as the writers possibly can is a monumental feat that How I Met Your Mother has accomplished, with the cast getting completely changed, I bet the How I Met Your Father writers also realize that the audience will find it hard to keep interest in the characters no matter how well they write them. So what I'm expecting is that they decided to have the classic Ted, Robin, and Barney love triangle and do a whole series on exactly that. By teasing that one of the four men is actually going to be the father, we can probably expect the story to unfold where it is completely focused on the character dynamics and the relationships between them. The relationship between the main characters was so titular in How I Met Your Mother, and keeping that in How I Met Your Father seemed hopeless in the first episode until the twist ending. This doesn't mean that it is guaranteed to be great. Hell, it might become a bland sitcom that tries too hard to course correct its predecessor's mistakes that it forgets to be funny. But I think that this twist actually sets up an interesting story to be told. There's just so much potential for character dynamics and what kind of journey these characters will go through with each other. It not only mended the main cast a little more together, for me at least, but it also allows for so many different possibilities of how the story will go, thus keeping many of the skeptical viewers engaged. Now let's take a moment to talk about the apartment scene in the end of the pilot episode.
Strangers, two equally good things.
Wow, love your place.
Thanks. It was a total score. We got it from this old married couple who posted it on the Wesleyan alumni group. We even got them to leave their swords.
Wow, nice touch.
We have enough? Yeah.
As much as it's a pretty cheap nostalgia pang, it made me realize that as much as they'll keep on respecting the legacy of the preceding show and carry on the feels of the original, it will still try to be its own story. The twist also proves this, but I also think that this callback proves so too. The apartment is the same, but also completely redecorated. A lot of the people in the How I Met Your Father discussion thread in Reddit actually missed that this was the old apartment in their first viewing, and this, although may not be intended, seems like a symbol for this show. It's got the old mold as its support, the structure of How I Met Your Mother, but it's redecorated, modernized, and it's trying to be its new own thing while keeping the original shape, and I think that is quite genius, if intended of course. Overall, I believe that How I Met Your Father has a bright future ahead of itself. The second episode is already quite better than the pilot and also has quite an interesting character development for my favorite character so far, Charlie, and hints at a very fun character dynamic between him and Sid. It's too early to judge a show at the point where only 2 episodes are out. It's like telling an artist that just began drawing that the work looks terrible. I stay cautious, but I'm still hopeful for the best of this show that has monumental potential. Thanks for watching my very first video essay, and please make sure to subscribe if you want to see more of this kind of content. I'll be posting more in the future, and please feel free to comment down below any kind of feedback or constructive criticism, and I will make sure to fix anything that I have to fix in the next video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.